Hello, everybody. And just let yourself enjoy being in the group. And let any appreciation that you have just to ripple out to these friends. And appreciation for their support, their practice. And just let yourself feel that in the heart. It can be very tiny, that sense of appreciation. It can be very small, very subtle. But that kind of gratitude or appreciation is a kind of a quiet joy that, as our guest Rachel Lewis said last week, is a more reliable kind of joy. The gratitude that we have for the community as a joy that we can feel in our own heart. And so tonight we're going to just take a little look at the heart practices. In Pali, they're called in Pali they're called the brahmavihāras. Brahma means divine, vihara, home or abode. These divine homes, these divine abodes that we can rest in, that we can feel into as our true home of the heart. And there are 4 of them. I'm going to describe the 4 of them, and then we'll just invite in our meditation. I'll invite you first of all to feel into these in the body, and then we'll have a very special chant inviting us to settle into these qualities, and then we'll have our sit in silence. And so the divine abodes are kindness. The first one is kindness or friendliness. The Pali word is mettā, and another translation is goodwill, or you may have heard the translation loving kindness. And I really resonate with friendliness or goodwill or kindness or care. Another way of understanding it is connection. Just the connection we feel. That sense of connection we might feel in nature. We could consider that mettā. And then the second is compassion. The heart that can witness or be with someone's suffering with care and kindness, and or with our own difficulties or challenges with care and kindness. And that Pali word is karuna. And then the third quality is mudita in Pali, or joy. And I like to say quiet joy, because when we say joy, it's like, oh, I have to be like fireworks, 4th of July. But that's not true. Joy can be very quiet. Like the little joy we have from being together. But it's a powerful, powerful nourishment for the heart. And then the 4th one is equanimity, or in Pali, upekkha. And that's the steadiness that we can sense into. And these qualities are all qualities that are in kind of innate in our heart, and we can also cultivate them as a support in our daily lives. And so just right now, I'm going to invite us to just sense in a little bit to these 4 qualities. Just inquire into whether we can feel any of them in our experience right now. And then following that, Andrea is going to lead us in a chant about these 4 qualities. And then we'll just settle into silence. And in the silence, just let the 4 qualities nourish you. Just turn to the 4 qualities as you remember, as you recall. And so settling in to the sense of your body sitting. And so just to say, sometimes in metta night, we use phrases to invoke these feelings. And sometimes we use a felt sense, and tonight we'll just settle into the felt sense of these qualities in the body as well as the chant, which can also evoke or settle us into these qualities. So settling into your sense of the body sitting. Sensing the body contacting the chair, feet on the floor, hips on the chair. And feeling the support of the chair. And sensing any, just sensing gently in to see if there's any sense in the body of weight on the chair or heaviness on the chair or any kind of steadiness or solidity. Feeling the support of the chair, the support of the earth. Letting the body be heavy and sensing into the steadiness of the body, the solidity of the body. Thich Nhat Hanh invites us to sense into the mountain quality of the body. Breathing in, if this, so there's different ways of turning to the equanimity. Could be simply feeling your body settled on the chair and the heaviness there. Could be the image of a mountain. Could be the words that Thich Nhat Hanh uses on the in-breath. He'll breathe in and whisper in the back of his mind, solid. And then on the out-breath, whisper mountain. Some people like to feel into whether there's a little pause after the exhale, and feeling into that moment of pause in the body for some people can feel very still and steady. And then noticing how the inhale rises easily within this steadiness. And so this is a way, these are several ways that you can turn to or call up, cultivate this sense of equanimity, the sense of steadiness. And then within this steadiness, you can invite an ease in the body. Just invite the body to whatever ease is available to be present. Invite a softening in the body. You can check into different areas in the body, the belly perhaps, and invite it to soften. Invite the face to soften. And you can recognize this invitation as a kindness, a friendliness towards yourself. a sense of care for yourself. And so just tuning into this softening, this ease, can be a way of cultivating friendliness. And placing a hand on the heart or offering another kind of physical gesture can bring that quality of friendliness in. Noticing the impact of that gesture of kindness. And then you can scan the body gently and see if perhaps there are areas of discomfort in the body, areas of tightness. And you can place a hand directly there or hold that area softly with your intention or soften the body around that area. And in this way, you can offer yourself compassion. And then we can take a gentle look for sense of quiet, that's very quiet kind of happiness that we can be with ourselves in this way, in this kind, gentle, present way. Maybe a little bit of gladness, a little bit of quiet joy at being with ourselves in this way. You can look for that. We don't always see it. Just look for that. See if it's there. A quiet appreciation of being able to offer this to ourselves. Sometimes a thank you kind of rises in my heart towards myself. A thank you of appreciation just for being present. There may also be a joy in being here together. And you can turn to that. You can bring it in at any time. Might be a joy in being able to settle on the chair and feel the support of the chair and the support of the breath. And so Andrea is going to offer a chant in Pali, just simply repeating the Pali words for these heart qualities: mettā, karuna, mudita, upekkha. And as she does so, just let the chant ripple in your body. And then when the silence comes, let yourself rest in these qualities in whatever way helps them to be close to you. It can use your active, gentle, directed attention to invite softness, invite kindness, hold any difficulty that comes up, sense into the steadiness of the body. And you can actively, gently inquire, is there joy here? So in whatever way feels right for you, resting in these qualities, in the body and the heart and the mind.
Metta, karuna, mudita, upekkha. 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 Metta, karuna, mudita, upekkha.
mettā, karuna, mudita, upekkha, mettā, karuna, mudita, upekkha, mettā, karuna, mudita, upekkha, mettā, karuna, mudita, upekkha. Thank you, everybody, for your practice. And if you wish to take a look in gallery again, just to see our beautiful group, and take a moment with the Sangha, please do. This group that are supporting us in these universal heart qualities of kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. And my aim tonight is to talk about these four as a set so that we get an idea that they go together, they intertwine with each other. And then also we can call on each of the qualities themselves. So I want to highlight a little bit the quality of joy. And I'm starting to say more quiet joy, because that just seems to catch it for me a little bit more. The translations are so tricky. And so quiet joy, I like to spend just a little bit of time talking about quiet joy and how joy nourishes the other three. And then also just a word about how joy is very important in wisdom, in cultivating wisdom. Just a bit on that, because we are still in the wisdom section of the Eightfold Path, and joy is a profoundly important part, actually, of cultivating wisdom. And so one of the images in the suttas about these divine abodes is of a four-stranded braid, or a braided rope that has four strands. And so they're seen as being braided together. And when they're braided together, they're a strong rope. So all four of them provide a strong protection and support for the heart and also the mind. And I was just thinking about this the other day. I was on a little road trip for just briefly out of town. And I was in the car, and I hadn't been driving for some time, as maybe many of us have. And I just felt this kind of lightness a light kind of joy in being in the car and on the road, and not too many things to do. It's one of the good things about a road trip. You kind of can't do too much. Except nowadays you can download your podcast and listen to that, and it can get kind of busy. But at this point I wasn't busy. I was just kind of feeling that lightness of joy. And then along with that, I felt an equanimity or steadiness of attention in the driving. And I also felt, could sense a friendliness and appreciation towards myself. Just this kind of light, friendly attention. And then I also felt some softness towards myself, because I had some fatigue and a little bit of overwhelm. And I just felt some softness around that. And so all four of these qualities came in. And then there was another moment this week where I was feeling kind of a loss of meaning moment. Does anybody ever have a loss of meaning moment? Yeah, they come, don't they? Yeah, they're kind of like seasons in our lives. They're just a season in our life. No, but I was having a loss of meaning moment. And I kind of, the first thing I did, and I've come to know these loss of meaning moments because they have a particular, they push a particular button for me. I used to be very reactive towards them. But now I realize that I can rest into them. I can surrender into, oh, this is a loss of meaning moment. And I get a little less reactive and I'm a little more equanimous. And so I settled into my equanimity. I surrendered into the loss of meaning moment. And I found some steadiness there. And then I brought in some kindness and compassion for myself because there's a little bit of reactivity still. And then also I turned towards, there was this kind of quiet joy in the fact that I was turning to kindness and compassion in the midst of this loss of meaning moment. There was a little bit of joy. Oh, yeah, I remember how it used to be 5, 10 years ago when I didn't know these heart qualities. I didn't know I could bring them in. And so I had this little joy, a little quiet joy. Yeah, I can rest in softness here in this loss of meaning moment. And so they were all involved. And I could have called on any one of them that I needed more strongly than the others. This is how Longchenpa describes it. He was a 14th century monk. And he says this about the way that they combine. And I love this poetic way that he describes this. He says, out of the soil of friendliness grows the beautiful bloom of compassion, watered with tears of joy under the cool shade of the tree of equanimity. Isn't that a lovely image? This beautiful way of bringing it all in, bringing it all together. And so we have many practices of kindness. Had I needed a particular quality to come to the fore as I was in my loss of meaning moment or in my joy moment in the car, I could have brought kindness or friendliness in a very simple way with a hand on the heart, with a gesture, a hand gesture of some sort. Compassion, it just invites softness or ease. And I have a little pet name for myself. I often call myself sweetheart. And so you can bring that in if you need a little extra compassion, a little extra tenderness. Oh, sweetie. Oh, sweetheart. And then combined with a hand on the heart or a hand gesture, that's a really lovely way to bring compassion in. And then equanimity, if we need to call that in more strongly, I really love that we practiced many ways of doing that in the beginning of the meditation. And I also like a way that Gil Fronsdal does it. He says, given what is happening right now, can I take a breath and wait and see what happens next? I love that. That's equanimity. And if I remember that phrase, then that can help me just have the patience. Can I hang in and wait and see what happens next? And that softens some of the reactivity. And so that's a bit on how they support each other. And joy has a particular role, as they all do, but joy's role, one of joy's roles, is to support compassion and equanimity. Compassion is being with the difficult, and equanimity is standing in the midst of things. And without joy, these two qualities can become indifferent. Equanimity can become indifference or aloofness if it feels like it has to push, if our system feels like it has to push something away. that we don't want to stand beside it. And compassion can roll into being overwhelmed if we don't nourish the system with something that is joyful. And so joy allows us to be more strongly in our compassion and equanimity. It nourishes the system. So we need to find ways of allowing our system to notice, first of all, and then rest in these quiet joys. And then I want to also say that joy supports wisdom, because what happens with joy, quiet joy, is that it calms the system. The Buddha said, what is the benefit or the fruit of joy? Joy calms the system, produces tranquility in the system. You know, if we see something beautiful or we're out in nature and the heart lifts with that beauty and that joy, there can be a calming afterwards, a kind of a settling. It settles the system. And when the system is settled, the system can see more clearly. We talked about that last week when I brought my jar in with all the glitter. When the system settles with our calming practices, then we can see more clearly what's here. We can see more clearly the patterns of mind and heart, and which ones lead to peace and which ones lead away from peace. That's wisdom. And so joy has a role in helping us see clearly how to support wholesome qualities and abandon unwholesome ones. And of course, there are lots of reliable joys. I love that reliable joy phrase that Rachel brought in, my friend Rachel, last week. The reliable joys. These are joys the Buddha called joys that don't rely on conditions, being a certain way. And so we can rely, there can be a joy in calmness. That joy of settling the system, there's a joy there. And we can train ourselves to notice it. And there are likely many more moments in the day than we realize that are calm moments. And we can ask ourselves, is there joy here? Look for the joy of that calmness. There's a joy in being present, quiet joy simply in being present. There's a quiet joy when what we call the hindrances in the mind, or the various visiting difficulties in the mind, are not there. Now, the hindrances are, the Buddha offered 5 hindrances which visit the mind, which agitate the mind or stir the mind up. And these are 5 qualities that we'll all recognize. Doubt is the last one. It stands kind of on its own. The first pair are sensual desire and hatred. So grasping at something sensual that we think will make us happy, or pushing something away. Ill will towards something might be, for example, if our mind is busy, we might have a sensual desire for a peaceful mind, and we may have ill will towards the busy mind. And what that does is stir things up more. And the other 2 hindrances are sloth and torpor, or kind of a dullness in the mind and the body, or restlessness and worry. Stir things up. And these hindrances, when they're in the mind, can be agitating. When we notice them often when they're in the mind, but when they're not in the mind and the heart, those times are times of we can find some joy in the absence of these states. And so it's very important to recognize these states, and when they're not here, there can be joy there, quiet joy. And as we become more trained in looking for the times they're not there, we can notice that they're not here more than we think. So I want to close by reading a beautiful kind of I think of it as a prose poem from Venerable Analayo, talking about these 4 qualities and comparing them to the sun. And so mettā, he says, here, mettā would be like the sun at midday in a cloudless sky, equally illuminating everyone and providing warmth in all directions. Just as the sun shines on what is high and low, clean and dirty, so mettā shines on all without making distinctions. Compassion could be compared to the sun just before sunset. Darkness is close by, almost palpably close, yet the sun keeps shining. In fact, it shines all the more brilliantly, beautifully coloring the sky at sunset. Similarly, when face to face with suffering and affliction, the mental attitude of compassion shines even more brilliantly, undeterred by all the darkness found in the world. Sympathetic joy. Continuing with the sun imagery, sympathetic joy could be compared to early morning sunrise. The birds are singing merrily, the air is fresh, and the surroundings are illuminated by the rising sun and appear as if pervaded by joyful delight. At times, the rays of the sun touch a dewdrop on a flower or tree and break into a myriad of colors. In the same way, the manifestation of wholesome qualities can become the source of joyful rejoicings within oneself. And the last is equanimity. The fourth of the Divine Abodes. Equanimity could then be likened to the full moon on a cloudless night. Just as the sun and moon are both up in the vast sky, in the same way the four Divine Abodes share with each other the boundless nature of a mind that has become limitless like the sky. And so, because it's Metta night, we wanted to bring back some of the quality of our in-person Metta nights where we had more of a chance to connect with each other. We would do a little bit of in-person connection with each other. So I wanted to do a little bit more, we wanted to do a little bit more connecting night in a very gentle way. And so I want to ask you a couple of questions and then invite us to go into some small groups just to say hello to each other and reflect together on these questions. And we hope that no one will leave. We hope that this will be a gentle invitation and that if you're in a little group, you'll be in a group of 4 to 5 people. And if you're in a little group and you don't want to share, that's fine. Your presence is actually really the important thing here. And so if you're in a small group and just don't wish to share, just let your friends know that. Just say, I'm just here to listen, just here to enjoy your presence, and that's all. And so I'm going to ask a couple of questions, and then those are the questions you can use to reflect on in your group so that you'll have a starting point. And so our hope is that this will provide us with a little bit of chance to connect together as a Sangha. And so here's some questions for you. Which heart quality is most alive for you? Secondly, I wonder if we can write these in the chat. Would that work, Andrea? Andrea's going to write them in the chat, but then they won't be available to you in the little small group. So if you want to make a little note of the questions.
They will be visible. It's
okay.
They
will. Oh, perfect. Yeah. Perfect. So here's, okay, what heart quality is most alive for you? And then the second question is, do you notice any quiet joy? Or have you noticed any quiet joy over the last little while? And then thirdly, if you are facing a challenge, Is there a divine abode that could help? Someone, for example, this week was speaking to me about the challenge of working with some of the folks in our communities that are more vulnerable to COVID-19. And that we're, the fact that we don't all have the same kind of refuge in this time. And so I just asked her what would be helpful for you in terms of which of these heart qualities might be supportive. And so she identified equanimity. And so we sat with some equanimity. And this would then enabled her to go, she's working in the field of community service. And so it enabled her to bring that equanimity into her work. So if you're facing a challenge, what divine abode might be helpful? So let's just let that chant kind of reverberate in our hearts as we dedicate the merit of our practice. We've cultivated kindness, equanimity, compassion, and quiet joy here together. Strengthen those capacities in our hearts. Let them sustain our heart and our mind. May the benefit of this practice ripple out and touch all beings everywhere and be a cause for liberation in the hearts and minds of all beings. Thank you, everybody, for your practice tonight and for creating this community of care together. And I think we have some announcements.
Yes, I can start. I have a couple announcements. So Jeanne touched so nicely on the concept of quiet joy. And if that appeals to you, you have a couple of opportunities coming up to cultivate those qualities. So first, starting on June 8th, for 3 Monday nights in a row, Jeanne will be offering an online class. And the theme of that is mindfulness and quiet joy, support in these times. And the class will offer practices of nourishment that we can all touch in this moment. It will be limited to 12 participants, just to foster a more intimate online class environment. And it'll include guided meditations, recordings, home practices, relational practices, and coaching circles. So there is a fee for this class, and you can register and find out more information on the website. And following that, actually the Saturday after that class ends, we'll be offering our late spring, early summer day long. And that will be titled Gladness and Quiet Joy, Essential Friends in Times of Change. So again, it will be a day-long retreat. It will take place online on Zoom. It's offered freely, and there will be a chance to offer dana to the teacher online as well. And you can register for that on the website. And that's on the 27th, I think I said, from 9 to 3 p.m.
I'll just say a brief word about the practice of dana. These teachings and these offerings are freely offered by Jeanne and by our community here. And we're so grateful to have Jeanne bring these beautiful teachings to us every week, and greatly appreciate that. For me, the practice of generosity is one that cultivates the heart, similar to many of the beautiful practices we were talking about today. So you can see for yourself how you feel when you have opportunities to be generous, whether it's just the generosity of caring for others by wearing a mask when you're in public, or maintaining your two-meter distance, letting cars merge, or whatever. Those are all acts of generosity, right? And we also have an opportunity to offer financial support if that's within your means. I've posted a link to our Dana page that's on our website. So there's a email address that you can use to do a direct e-transfer to Jeanne, and it's gratefully received. And if you don't do the e-transfer thing and want to do you're offering some other way, just send us an email and we can connect you with that as well.
Thank you, Andrea. And I want to say that just a word of thank you for any dana that you offer, including the great dana of your presence here. So thank you so much for creating this community together where we can all practice. And I have an announcement too, and that is that I'm going to invite, last week I had a friend join me from my teacher training. And so we're going to make this a regular event every couple of months. I'm going to invite some of my friends up or over. And so we'll have friends from all over the world actually coming to visit. And so on June 24th, our next mettā night, I'm inviting Rachel back. Rachel chanted last week, so she'll chant the Mettā Sutta for us. And then also Devin Barry and Tara Malay are coming from Massachusetts. And Devin's they're all amazing. Devin Barry has created this, co-created this retreat that he calls Deep Liberation, which really looks at racism particularly in the States, and how to undo it. And so he brings this real depth of practice in this area and many other areas. Tara is of East Indian descent and also has a vast array of practice, extensive retreat practice in Asia. And she's got just this real clear way of sharing the Dharma. So I'm going to invite them all to offer their perspectives on metta for us next month. So I hope you join us for this, what we're calling Dhamma Friends. All of us being Dhamma friends in this together. So thank you again for your practice tonight. It's just a joy being on the path with you. And have a week which is supported by the Divine Abodes, those qualities of your own heart, which you can call on in every circumstance. Okay, much care to everybody.